Alex and I, and we went to elementary school together, we went to high school together, and we were, a minority for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
But how did you feel? Because it would have been tough too, and I think you kind of share the experience of being, honestly, I think as a person that's a minority, as a female, is very different from a male Asian persona, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know anything about this, so I'd love to hear about that.
And I think you guys remind me of each other a lot.
Yeah.
Because I do think, Mena described you as being super athletic, and when you think about the stereotypes, right, of the Asian male, it's not necessarily grounded in being athletic and good at sports, right?
No, I think growing up, and we're getting deep again.
Yeah.
I was kind of ashamed of my culture.
Yeah.
Right.
I felt that too.
We grew up with Caucasians. We thought that we had to adhere to a culture that we couldn't really identify with. My mom and dad were born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago, and then they immigrated here and they started a new life for us in Canada. And bringing even lunches, we talked about this, but like bringing a lunch, it's called bus up shut and roti and curry, and we brought that in. We're trying to eat with our hands. We're like, oh, do we eat with a fork and knife, or do I?
But is that the reason why you guys connected, or because
I think a part of it was for sure. We were like the outcasts, and I also think culture recognizes culture, right? Yeah. You're like, oh, you have a different culture. I can relate to that. I also bring different food, and I think that was a part of it too. And I think immigrant parents raise you different than Caucasian parents or American Canadian parents, and I think you realize that. But how is it different between a male and a female Asian growing up with prejudice? Like, what are the differences you think?
So I would say from a Asian female, there is a bit of a fetishization of the Asian female. In some ways, you could say there's this level of putting us up in a pedestal of like, oh, this ideal feminine sort of being. I think for men, at least, so Pete, when he's saying he had to learn how to fight, I mean, you either have to learn how to fight or you're going to be, and you being sporty and athletic probably was a response to saying, I'm going to push up against that stereotype of being, studious and keep my head down, and which isn't ideal for when you think about the sort of ideal masculine state. Keeping your head down and just being studious and not causing problems, which is very typical of the Asian culture, is probably not the best way to respond to the societal pressure that you feel as a man. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure it does. No.
Yeah. Like you learned how to fight and you were small.
But
you weren't big. As a kid, you were tiny.
Yeah, but let's be clear as well. Like, so this is, I think, this is what you're alluding to, which
Let's be clear as well. I'm jacked. Okay, I'm jacked. Let's be clear.
Tell that's what he was trying to say. I mean, it was like
for 40 straight years. No, but I think I never had literally so your typical Asian male, candidly, is like, if you're successful, you're probably, because you're book smarts and you've found a way to use your intelligence and I was more of a street rat. I was I was very much like street smarts, and I just found a way to make things happen, make things work. But I was also, I just survived, right? So I got in fights all the time. I literally, I remember, and this is a grade 4, I remember flag football for some particular reason. I picked up a football and was really, really good at it. And it was like, that was a moment where I became the fastest kid. I was like, so everyone looked at me still as the Chinese kid, even though I wasn't Chinese, but I was a fast Chinese kid. Yeah. And it was crazy because it was like, but that was like the level up of me saying, okay, like from here on in, this is my identity. I got to just.
And that's how you gain acceptance, right? And
I found that path where I remember, I do remember, other Asian, I wouldn't call them friends because we weren't friends. It's terrible to say, which is so bad, but other Asian boys that literally probably didn't have that ability to speak their mind or voice because there was no level.
Or quite frankly, even socialize in the spaces that you're socializing in, which is so uncool, right? So.
But you have this absence of time where I think you grow out of it. So if you're book smart, you're intelligent, and you're an Asian male,
it's probably boding well for you now in middle age, right? Let's just say that.
Well, no, but you'll get to the point where you might have a really difficult upbringing, but to your point, you may become a doctor, you may be an academic, you'll do just fine. but you'll have that entire like absence of your, adolescence,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, that was a really shitty life. That was really difficult for me to
Yeah.
fit in, or whatever. So my point being is I struggled my entire life, but I found my way to make ends meet, and I found my way to succeed. So I think the point being is like, I wasn't your typical Asian male, but I saw exactly the struggles that they all went through, right?
Thanks for watching this clip from Growth Untold the Podcast. If you enjoyed this clip right here, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. And if you want to listen to the whole episode, follow the Growth Untold page wherever you listen to podcasts.